conflicts over material resources, we can see that these things are getting progressively more intense, and that's going to go on. That's going to go on until the end of the Kali Yuga, when another golden age will start. So in that sense, that's another sense in which I use the word devolution, in the sense that progressively, as time goes on, things are going to keep deteriorating until finally, in the course of cyclical time, another golden age starts, and then the process repeats, just as each year in the temperate climates we get spring, summer, fall, winter, and then again spring, summer, fall, winter.
Yeah.
So we have to, we can't stop the seasonal changes, but we can prepare ourselves, we can adjust. Just because winter is coming, it doesn't mean you have to freeze to death. You can prepare yourself for it.
Yep.
So those are the three different senses in which I use the word, devolution. Devolution in the sense that we've devolved or come down from some higher level of the cosmos. We've been put into this material level of reality where we have to function through the material vehicles that we call bodies, but ultimately we're from an entirely different level of reality. And these sorts of ideas have been popularized a few years ago through films like the Matrix series,
and
more recently by the Avatar film, where you have somebody, his consciousness is being projected into a body that exists on another planet, and he functions on that planet through that body. So basically, according to what I'm presenting in Human Devolution, is that we're all pretty much in that situation. All of us, for all of us, our consciousness has been projected down onto this planet into a material body in which we have to function on this level of reality. But ultimately, we have, as conscious beings, an existence on some higher level of reality.
In Avatar, Michael, we see this being used as in a form of a technology. They're using very advanced high technology to place this person into the body of someone else. Do you think that is actually what is happening in terms of our experience as well? Is this a literal computer game, if you want to look at it from that point of view, or do you think that this is a spiritual mechanism at play here? It's a still form of a technology, but it's more organic. It's a spiritual technology, if you will.
Yes, it's I would call it a spiritual technology, but there's a material element to it in this sense. Say as human beings, we're normally meant to live on the land. If we want to live in the water, then we need special vehicles that will allow us to function in the alien element of water. We need a diving suit or a submarine. Now, where do those diving suits and submarines come from? Well, they come from engineers who understand that if human beings are going to exist under the water, they need special vehicles that will allow them to do that. So they design and build these vehicles that we then can use to function in the water. So I would say, similarly, there are higher intelligences in the cosmos that understand that if human beings, which are ultimately beings of pure consciousness, are going to function in the world of matter, they need vehicles that will allow them to do that. So they design and build them. Now, what makes these machines different than a submarine or a diving suit is that once these machines are produced, they can go on to reproduce other machines, by different sexual and asexual processes. So they're very complex machines, and there is a I would say, a spiritual element into it because, say if we want to get into a submarine, well, we go down to the dock, we get in the submarine, but how does the conscious self get into
the
this
sub
body?
or the body? Yeah.
That's not something that we do ourselves. That's where the spiritual element comes into it. How a conscious self is projected down into this level of reality. I mean, there is a material element to it. We can see that our bodies, our vehicles, are made of material elements: calcium, phosphorus, all these elements that are there. But the consciousness is not made of any of those elements. Of course, this is where a big debate's going to come in. Some people in this world today, especially many scientists, think that, well, if you organize matter in a sufficiently complex way in the brain, it produces consciousness. But only in connection with the brain, only in connection with matter. And when you disorganize the matter, then there's no more consciousness, none of that. So under that picture of reality, it's matter that is primary. And what we call consciousness is only a temporary byproduct of extremely complex organizations of matter. And it only occurs when those extremely complex organizations of matter are there. Otherwise, there's no consciousness. And in any particular case, say, if I'm existing as a conscious being now, at the time of death, when the chemicals in my brain disorganize, then there's no more consciousness. So under that picture of reality, it's matter that is primary, and the domination and control and exploitation of matter is the main purpose of human life. So that people in our modern human civilization, they're organized for that, for producing and consuming more and more material things, not for the benefit of all, because according to the current scientific theories, we're not only just machines made of matter, we're machines made of matter in competition with each other for survival. So therefore, under the influence of these ideas, we see in our human civilization today very intense levels of competition among individuals, among races, among classes, among nations, even among religions. There are these very intense levels of competition for control and domination and exploitation of the resources of matter. And this results in the environmental destruction that we see going on. For example, our human civilization, the way that it's organized now, requires huge amounts of oil. So, the nations or the big corporations, big global corporations, are trying to extract as much oil as they can from the earth. And it's so important that they do that they're prepared to risk environmental destruction in the search for ever-increasing supplies of oil. And therefore, you get catastrophes like we see happening in the Gulf of Mexico now. And it will happen in other places as well. But the point is that this intense focus that we see on material production and consumption is what underlies all of these environmental catastrophes.